The shelter erupted with barking and chaos, but one corner held a scene that froze everyone in their tracks. A massive German shepherd, teeth bared, muscles coiled, and eyes blazing amber, growled at anyone who came near. Volunteers whispered warnings, visitors stepped back in fear, and even seasoned handlers hesitated. This dog was notorious for aggression, a living storm of unpredictability. Then she arrived. A paralyzed little girl in a wheelchair, tiny and fragile, rolled calmly toward the intimidating dog. The dog's growl deepened, threatening yet focused entirely on her. Instead of panic, the girl radiated quiet courage. She didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She simply stared into his eyes. What happened next stunned everyone. The aggressive German shepherd slowly lowered his head, stepping forward in trust, creating a moment so powerful that the entire shelter fell silent. Stay tuned. This story will leave you breathless and inspired. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The shelter smelled faintly of disinfectant and straw. The constant hum of barking dogs filling every corner of the large, sunlit building. Volunteers moved briskly between kennels, carrying food bowls, leashes, and blankets. Their movements efficient yet careful, as if knowing that each animal required a delicate touch. In one corner, a row of cages housed dogs of all sizes, from timid puppies to older, more imposing breeds. Among them, one German shepherd drew attention with his alert stance and intense amber eyes. A dog with a reputation that made visitors keep their distance. Through the front doors rolled a wheelchair, carrying a small girl with golden hair tied neatly in a ponytail. Her parents wheeled her through the bustling shelter, their expressions a mix of excitement and apprehension. She gripped the sides of her wheelchair with both hands, determination mixed with curiosity evident in her gaze. As they approached the kennels, the German shepherd lifted his head, ears pricking, growl low but deliberate. The little girl's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the chaos of barking, scurrying feet, and clanging bowls seemed to fade. She tilted her head slightly, observing him calmly. Her parents whispered encouragement, but the girl remained composed. Her curiosity stronger than her fear, volunteers paused, noting the unusual stillness in the girl as she stared at the dog notorious for aggression. Other children and visitors stepped back instinctively, sensing the tension. In that moment, the stage was set, the collision of a paralyzed child's bravery and a German shepherd's intense instincts. A story about to unfold that would shock and inspire everyone in the shelter. The little girl's eyes stayed fixed on the German shepherd, her small frame rigid in the wheelchair. The dog's fur bristled, muscles tense beneath his sleek coat, teeth bared in a low, warning growl. Most visitors had long since avoided him, knowing the stories of his aggressive behavior, but the girl didn't flinch. She simply stared back, curiosity and determination shining through her gaze. Volunteers stepped closer cautiously, whispering to each other. "He's never behaved like this with anyone," one murmured. "Not even experienced handlers," another added, eyes wide with surprise. The dog's amber eyes followed her every movement, tilting his head as though trying to assess her intentions. The low growl resonated through the shelter, sending a shiver down the spines of onlookers. Her parents stayed just behind her, hands resting lightly on the wheelchair handles, nervous but encouraging. "It's okay, sweetie," her mother whispered. "Just be calm." The girl took a slow, steady breath, letting the sound fill the space between her and the dog. Slowly, she extended one hand, fingers trembling slightly, but deliberate, a tentative offering of trust. The German shepherd stiffened, nostrils flaring, sniffing the air around her hand. The growl persisted, but the tension in his posture seemed to shift subtly. Volunteers held their breath, sensing the unspoken communication. In that instant, everyone in the room realized something extraordinary was happening. The little girl, paralyzed and small, was facing an aggressive, intimidating dog with calm courage that no one expected. A moment that would change everything about the shelter that day. The German shepherd's growl deepened, resonating through the shelter like a low rumble of thunder. His body stiffened, tail raised, and teeth bared as he shifted slightly in his kennel, every muscle coiled with tension. Volunteers and visitors instinctively took a step back, sensing the danger in his gaze. This was a dog with a long history of aggression, one who had snapped at strangers and even experienced handlers. The little girl remained seated in her wheelchair, fingers gripping the sides tightly. Despite the dog's intimidating stance, she didn't scream or flinch. Her eyes studied him calmly, unafraid yet respectful. Her parents exchanged nervous glances, whispering softly to encourage her to remain composed. Every step the child had taken toward the dog had been careful, deliberate and measured. Volunteers moved cautiously around the kennel, some holding leashes, others standing ready to intervene. They whispered to each other about his past behavior, recalling how he had intimidated every visitor who had come near. Yet now, his aggression seemed directed toward curiosity rather than hostility, a response to something he sensed uniquely about the child. The dog's amber eyes locked onto hers, nostrils flaring, growl constant but slightly modulated. The air was thick with tension. Everyone in the shelter felt it. It was clear this dog was unpredictable, potentially dangerous, and yet strangely captivated by the small girl before him. In that moment, the first spark of connection began to form, teetering on the fine line between fear and trust. Leaving everyone holding their breath to see what would happen next, the little girl sat quietly in her wheelchair, her golden hair brushing softly against her shoulders. Despite the German Shepherd's growls, bared teeth, and rigid posture, she remained perfectly still. Her small hands rested gently in her lap, fingers intertwined, and her wide eyes locked onto his amber gaze. There was no panic, no hesitation, only a quiet, steady curiosity that seemed to ripple through the room. Mark Jensen, the canine handler, crouched slightly to observe. He had worked with aggressive dogs before, but he had never witnessed a human, let alone a small child, elicit such a unique reaction. Shadow, the German Shepherd, growled low, but the intensity had shifted, softened slightly. His muscles remained tense, but there was now a hint of restraint. As if he were testing her, the girl tilted her head, her eyes scanning every subtle movement the dog made. She didn't reach out yet. Instead, she exhaled slowly, projecting calmness in a way instinctively understood by the dog. Her parents whispered encouragement, but the girl didn't look at them. She focused entirely on Shadow, studying him with the patience of someone who knew that sudden movements could provoke danger. The shelter volunteers and other visitors watched in silence, astonished. Some whispered, She's not afraid, while others exchanged wide-eyed glances, realizing the gravity of the moment. Shadow's growl persisted, but it wavered, punctuated by soft huffs and attentive sniffing. For the first time, the aggressive dog seemed to acknowledge the girl's presence not as a threat, but as a puzzle, a curiosity. In that calm and deliberate stillness, she had begun to bridge the divide between fear and trust. Laying the foundation for a connection no one in the shelter had expected, the volunteers froze, eyes wide as they watched the unfolding scene. Shadow, the German Shepherd, continued to growl softly, muscles coiled and tense, yet his gaze remained fixed on the little girl. Most visitors had instinctively stepped back, but the volunteers could do nothing but watch in stunned silence. No one had ever seen this dog behave this way, not toward another handler, not toward a visitor, and certainly not toward a child, one volunteer whispered to another, voice trembling with awe. He's never been calm around anyone like this. Not in years. Another shook her head, unable to tear her eyes away. Shadow's stance had softened slightly, yet his alertness was undeniable, a living reminder of both his training and his unpredictable temperament. Mark Jensen's voice remained calm, but firm. Don't move too quickly, he said softly, watching the girl's deliberate movements. Shadow sniffed the air around her hands, testing, assessing, yet not lashing out. Every second seemed a stretch, tension building. As the volunteers realized that this small child was doing what no adult could, some volunteers reached for leashes, ready to intervene if needed, yet hesitation held them back. It was clear something extraordinary was occurring. The little girl's calmness, patience, and quiet courage were not only diffusing a dangerous, situation, but beginning to forge a connection between a paralyzed child and an aggressive German shepherd that would leave everyone in the shelter in awe. The little girl shifted slightly in her wheelchair, moving just a few inches closer to Shadow. Every muscle in her body remained tense, yet she radiated calmness that belied her small size and frailty. Her eyes never left the dog's amber gaze, studying his movements carefully. She knew one wrong motion could trigger aggression, but her resolve was stronger than fear. Shadow's growl rumbled low, vibrating through the shelter, yet it no longer carried the sharp edge of immediate threat. His ears twitched, nostrils flaring as he assessed the girl's intentions. Volunteers held their breath, glancing at each other nervously. Some whispered, "Is she really going to do this?" Others shook their heads, eyes wide, convinced the dog could strike at any second. Mark Jensen crouched beside her, keeping his voice steady. "Take your time," he murmured. "Just be gentle. Let him come to you, not the other way around." Shadow's head lowered slightly, sniffing the air between them, muscles still coiled but curiosity piqued. The girl extended one small hand, trembling slightly toward Shadow's thick muzzle. She moved slowly, deliberately, every finger careful, every breath measured. Shadow sniffed her fingers, a cautious but non-aggressive response. Volunteers leaned closer, amazed at the trust being established between a paralyzed child and a dog known for aggression. For a fleeting moment, the terminal seemed to fall silent. The chaos of barking, movement, and startled whispers faded into the background. In that pause, it became clear the little girl was not simply approaching a dog, she was bridging a divide, creating a bond through calm courage that would transform both her and Shadow forever. Shadow's massive head lowered slightly, his amber eyes fixed on the little girl's outstretched hand. His growl had faded to a cautious rumble, and his body, still tense, shifted imperceptibly closer. The shelter seemed to hold its breath as the small child, paralyzed and yet fearless, made the first deliberate move toward him. The girl's fingers brushed gently against Shadow's thick fur, careful not to startle him. Her hand rested briefly on his muzzle, soft and tentative, a silent offer of trust. The dog sniffed her carefully, nostrils flaring as he assessed her intentions. Volunteers and visitors leaned closer, whispers echoing softly, "She's really doing it. She's touching him." Mark Jensen crouched beside her, voice calm but alert. "Stay steady. Don't pull," he murmured. Shadow responded, shifting slightly to allow the touch, tail flicking once in subtle acknowledgement. Slowly, the other dogs in the shelter began to relax as well. Sensing the shift in Shadow's stance, the little girl's eyes met Shadow's, wide with a mix of awe and curiosity. She whispered softly, "It's okay. You're safe." The words were gentle, almost fragile, but carried enough calm authority to reach the dog's instincts. Shadow leaned into her touch, his massive head lowering further. A subtle sign of acceptance that stunned everyone watching. The volunteers exchanged astonished glances, realizing that the unthinkable had happened. The child's calm, deliberate actions had created a connection with a dog previously known for aggression. For the first time, the German shepherd regarded her with trust, not threat, forming the foundation of a bond that would grow stronger with every passing second. In that extraordinary moment, the shelter witnessed the power of patience, courage, and quiet confidence, the beginning of a relationship that would touch every heart present. The shelter was still. The usual cacophony of barking and movement muted as everyone watched the unfolding scene. Shadow's massive head rested lightly against the little girl's hand, amber eyes softening but still alert. The other dogs in nearby kennels had paused, sensing the unique moment. Volunteers and visitors held their breath, realizing that the paralyzed child was bridging a gap that no adult had been able to. The girl's fingers traced the edge of Shadow's thick fur, her small hand steady despite the dog's size and reputation. She whispered softly, voice barely audible, "It's okay. I'm here." The sound seemed to calm not only Shadow but the room itself. The growl that had echoed moments ago faded entirely. Replaced by soft huffs and the rhythmic sound of the dog's breathing, Mark Jensen remained crouched beside her, voice calm and reassuring. "You're doing great. Keep it gentle. Let him come to you." Shadow responded, inching closer without a hint of aggression. The tension that had gripped the shelter dissipated as the massive dog leaned fully into the child's touch. Other visitors and volunteers began to relax, some wiping astonished tears from their eyes. Parents clutched their children a little tighter, inspired by the courage of someone so small facing a dog so large. Every movement of the little girl was deliberate, careful, yet infused with a quiet strength that commanded respect and trust from the animal. The dog's head rested, fully against her lap, a low whine escaping his throat. Not of fear or anger, but a deep, tentative bond forming. Shadow's protective instincts were now focused entirely on her, watching for any danger in the shelter, while responding to her presence with gentle patience. In that extraordinary moment, fear was overcome by bravery. The child had not only faced a notoriously aggressive German shepherd, but had tamed his instincts through calmness, courage, and empathy. The shelter watched in awe as a remarkable connection between human and dog took root, a bond that would inspire everyone present. Shadow shifted gently, lowering his massive body closer to the little girl. His growls had vanished entirely, replaced by soft, steady breathing as he relaxed into her touch. The other dogs in the shelter began to mirror his calm demeanor, sensing that the perceived threat had dissolved. The room, once tense and anxious, now hummed with a quiet energy of awe and wonder. The little girl's fingers moved slowly through Shadow's fur, brushing along his strong neck and broad shoulders. She whispered softly, "It's okay. You don't have to be scared." The dog's eyes softened further, amber warmth radiating trust and acceptance. Every muscle in his body, once taut with aggression, now relaxed incrementally. Volunteers exchanged astonished glances, unable to hide their amazement. Mark Jensen stepped closer, watching intently. "This is incredible," he murmured, voice filled with awe. "The transformation is real. He's responding entirely to her calmness and courage." Shadow nudged the girl gently with his nose, a subtle yet unmistakable sign of affection and recognition. The little girl's small laugh escaped, light and joyous. Echoing through the shelter, one by one, the other dogs followed Shadow's lead. Their growls softened, ears flicking, tails lowering. The intimidating barrier of aggression dissolved as the animals recognized the child's sincerity and absence of threat. Volunteers clapped softly, whispering words of encouragement, while parents and visitors watched, some with tears in their eyes. The shelter was alive with a new energy, one of connection, empathy, and transformation. Shadow, once feared for his aggressive tendencies, had become gentle and attentive, responding to the girl with loyalty and trust. The moment showcased the power of patience, courage, and empathy. A paralyzed little girl had changed a notoriously aggressive dog into a gentle protector. In that extraordinary moment, everyone in the shelter realized the remarkable truth. Bravery and compassion could transform even the fiercest instincts, creating bonds that would last far beyond the walls of the shelter. The atmosphere in the shelter shifted completely. Volunteers and visitors watched in stunned silence as Shadow rested his massive head gently on the little girl's lap. The growls and tension that had filled the room were gone, replaced by a calm, almost sacred stillness. Every eye in the room followed the unlikely pair, astonished by the transformation that had occurred in mere moments. The little girl smiled softly, her eyes sparkling with a mix of joy and wonder. "You're okay now," she whispered, brushing her fingers through Shadow's fur. The dog's amber eyes met hers, filled with trust and a newfound bond that transcended fear and aggression. Volunteers whispered to each other, awe evident in their voices. "I've never seen anything like this," one said. "It's incredible how calm she is." Mark Jensen stepped back slightly, allowing the moment to unfold naturally. His heart swelled with pride and amazement. He had trained countless dogs, but no one could have prepared him for this, a paralyzed child, facing a notoriously aggressive German shepherd, had elicited trust and loyalty in a way no adult could. Parents in the room clutched their children, inspired by the courage and patience of someone so small. Some wiped away tears, moved by the pure connection between human and animal. The shelter felt different now, filled not with fear or chaos, but with a quiet reverence for the little girl's bravery. Shadow nudged her gently again, tail wagging softly. The child giggled, and for the first time the shelter's walls seemed to echo with joy instead of tension. In that extraordinary moment, everyone realized that courage, calmness, and empathy could bridge gaps thought impossible, leaving an indelible mark on all who had witnessed the incredible scene. The little girl's laughter rang softly through the shelter, delicate yet full of genuine happiness. Shadow's head remained nestled in her lap, but his tail wagged gently, a subtle rhythm that seemed to match her delight. For the first time, the room wasn't tense or anxious. It was alive with warmth and a sense of wonder. Her small hands ran through Shadow's thick fur, feeling the power beneath her fingertips transform into gentle affection. "You're my friend," she whispered, eyes wide and sparkling. The German Shepherd responded with a soft nuzzle, pressing closer as if affirming her words. Volunteers watched in awe, some quietly wiping tears from their eyes, captivated by the bond forming before them. Parents nearby exchanged glances, astonished at the courage and joy radiating from the child. Even those who had initially feared the dog's aggressive nature now smiled, understanding the miracle of the connection. "She's bringing out the best in him," one volunteer murmured softly, voice full of reverence. The girl giggled again, leaning forward slightly to give Shadow a gentle hug. The dog shifted carefully, accommodating her tiny frame, yet remaining alert and protective. Other visitors who had been lingering near the shelter's entrance moved closer, drawn by the heartwarming scene. They quietly observed, reluctant to break the magic that had settled over the room. Mark Jensen knelt beside the girl, voice soft. "See, he trusts you completely now. You've shown him kindness and courage that no one else could." The child beamed, pride and happiness filling her expression. In that moment, the paralyzed little girl's joy had not only transformed the dog's behavior, but had created a ripple of amazement and inspiration that touched everyone in the shelter. Mark Jensen stepped closer, kneeling beside the little girl in Shadow, his voice calm but filled with quiet awe. "Do you know why he reacted to you this way?" he asked softly. The girl shook her head, tilting it slightly. Curious but unaware of the extraordinary impact she had made on the German Shepherd, Shadow shifted slightly, nudging her hand gently, as if reinforcing Jensen's words. "This dog has a history," Mark continued. "He's been aggressive toward almost everyone who approached him, volunteers, experienced handlers, even other dogs. Most people are too intimidated to get near him. But something about you, your calmness, your gentle presence, he recognized it." The girl listened intently, eyes wide. I just wanted to pet him," she whispered. Mark smiled. "And that's exactly what mattered. He could sense your courage, your sincerity. You didn't flinch or panic. You stayed steady, and in that steadiness he found trust." Volunteers nodded, some whispering among themselves in awe. "It's incredible," one murmured. "He's never behaved this way with anyone before." Shadow's amber eyes met the girl's, and for the first time everyone realized the full significance of the moment. The little child had done what no adult could. She had bridged the gap between fear and trust with nothing but patience and calm bravery. Parents nearby embraced quietly, moved by the unfolding lesson. "Courage isn't about size or strength," Mark said softly. "Sometimes it's about staying calm when others are afraid. That calmness has a power that can reach even the most guarded hearts." Shadow leaned slightly into the girl's lap, a living testament to that truth. The shelter slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the energy in the room was different now. Where barking and anxious movement had filled the space before, a calm settled over the animals and visitors alike. Shadow remained close to the little girl, his massive body relaxed yet alert, while other dogs shifted back into their usual routines. The tension that had gripped the shelter for so long had dissolved, replaced by a quiet reverence for what had just occurred. Volunteers moved more freely, carrying food bowls and blankets without fear. Their voices were softer, laced with awe rather than caution. "I can't believe what just happened," one whispered. "That child—" She changed everything. Parents who had been watching nearby nodded, glancing down at their children to instill the same lesson of courage and empathy. The little girl sat in her wheelchair, a small smile on her lips. She reached gently toward Shadow, brushing his thick fur as he leaned slightly into her touch. The dog's eyes met hers, calm and trusting, a stark contrast to the fierce growls that had echoed moments ago. Mark Jensen knelt nearby, observing with quiet pride. "You see?" he said softly to the volunteers. "The shelter may be full of fear and chaos, but a single calm presence can transform even the most aggressive instincts. That's what happened today." Courage and patience made the difference. As the visitors resumed their exploration of the shelter, the story of the little girl and the German shepherd lingered in everyone's minds. Calm had been restored not through authority or command, but through empathy, bravery, and trust, a lesson that would resonate with everyone who had witnessed the extraordinary connection in that small corner of the shelter. The room was quiet now, but the memory of the extraordinary encounter lingered in every heart. Volunteers, visitors, and parents reflected on what had just unfolded. A paralyzed little girl had faced a notoriously aggressive German shepherd and, through calmness and patience, had transformed fear into trust. The lesson was clear. Courage and empathy can bridge gaps that strength and authority cannot. Mark Jensen addressed the shelter staff softly, ensuring the girl could hear. "Today we saw something remarkable," he said, voice steady. "Training is critical, but instinct, perception, and calm presence can achieve what commands alone never could. This dog reacted to trust, not fear, and it took a single child's bravery to bring out the best in him." Shadow rested his head gently on the girl's lap, tail wagging slowly, a living testament to the power of her courage. Visitors whispered among themselves, some teary-eyed, others silently nodding in amazement. Parents tightened their children's hands, imparting the same lesson without words. Bravery isn't measured by size or physical strength, but by calm resolve in the face of uncertainty. The little girl giggled softly, brushing Shadow's fur, her joy infectious. Volunteers smiled, inspired by the bond they had just witnessed. The shelter, once filled with tension and fear, now radiated hope. Every moment of calm courage had left an indelible mark. Mark Jensen looked at Shadow and the child, voice low. "Sometimes the smallest heroes teach the greatest lessons." In that moment, everyone realized that empathy, patience, and courage could change even the most guarded hearts, and that one act of bravery could ripple far beyond the walls of the shelter. Hours later, the shelter had quieted, sunlight streaming through the windows, casting warm beams across the now calm kennels. Shadow lay close to the little girl, resting his massive head gently in her lap, eyes alert but serene. The girl smiled up at him, her small hands stroking his fur, a mix of joy and pride shining in her expression. Volunteers moved softly around them, careful not to disturb the extraordinary bond forming in the center of the room. Mark Jensen stood nearby, voice calm but reflective. "Today wasn't just about training or discipline," he said softly. "It was about courage, empathy, and the quiet power of presence. This child showed us all that bravery doesn't require size or strength, just patience, composure, and compassion." He gestured toward Shadow, who lifted his head slightly, amber eyes meeting the child's gaze. A living testament to his words, parents who had observed the scene leaned close to their own children, whispering lessons of empathy and courage. Visitors exchanged amazed glances, recounting what they had witnessed to each other in hushed, reverent tones. Volunteers wiped tears from their eyes, inspired by the bond that had emerged between a paralyzed little girl and a dog once feared for aggression. The girl giggled softly as Shadow nudged her gently, tail wagging as if acknowledging her bravery. For a fleeting moment, the shelter seemed almost magical, a place where fear had been transformed into trust, chaos into calm, and hesitation into hope. Mark crouched beside her, voice tender. "Remember this moment," he said. Sometimes the smallest heroes teach the greatest lessons. Courage can change the world, and empathy can transform even the fiercest hearts. Shadow pressed closer. A silent confirmation. The paralyzed little girl's bravery had left an indelible mark on everyone present. The shelter, the dogs, the volunteers, and the visitors would forever remember the day courage and compassion created a miracle. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because acts of bravery, big or small, are worth celebrating and sharing with the world.